We are ready when you are.
Set.
We are ready when you are.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Just a reminder that the board of directors may vote to hold an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from Mountain Lions attorney on matters listed on agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3. Executive session may be held at any time during the meeting. Executive sessions are not open to the public pursuant to Arizona open meeting law. Now a call to the public. For open public comment. Members of the public can comment on any items not on the agenda under general call to the public and on items on the agenda time. The items in the agenda order. Are there any members of the public present for public comment? Seeing none?
You need to back up into your room.
Oh, sorry. Roll call.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Coconino County, Judy Begay.
Here.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet.
Here.
NAU, Josh Mayer.
Here.
NAU, Jeff McCain.
Here.
CCC, Kurt Stull.
Good morning, present.
City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews is expected. We have staff in the room and on Zoom, and our attorney Scott Holcomb is on Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I will turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Now for the safety minute, Sam Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. October's first safety minute is regarding fall hazards. So as we moved into October, the change in weather brings new safety concerns both on and off the road. Wet roads, early frost, and darker mornings can make sidewalks and roads slippery and hard to see. Always take your time, use 3 points of contact when getting in or out of your vehicles. With shorter days, visibility drops. Make sure your lights are working before each trip and watch carefully for pedestrians and cyclists who may be harder to see in the dark. When walking, jogging, or biking, make sure to wear reflective clothing. On the road, slow down on wet or debris covered surfaces and increase your following distance. Smooth braking and steady turns keep our vehicles from sliding on slick surfaces. And finally, dress in layers, stay alert. Rushing or skipping small safety steps can lead to big safety problems. Let's stay cautious, stay visible, and make it a safe October for everyone. Thank you and welcome to the October board meeting.
Thank you. Now milestone anniversaries, Heather.
So did we cover some of these in October, right? Because Rich came. Okay, so I'm gonna skip the September and just talk about the 2 October milestone anniversaries. Yes, okay. Brought notes for both just in case. So we have 2 October anniversaries. Similar to last month, these are big milestones. E4 on the left of the screen is celebrating 20 years here at Mountain Lion. And Dave Schweigert is celebrating 15 years here at Mountain Lion. Comments from their supervisors are as follows. Keith has been an outstanding driver for 20 years. The riders love him and he has almost no complaints against him. He has kept his passengers and bus safe, and it has been years since he has had an accident. With an easygoing, friendly attitude, he is a favorite amongst our team. I remember when he started, I recently shared a picture of Heath and no one knew who he was because he looked like he was 12. So we're very glad to celebrate Heath and his 20 years. Dave Schweigert is also a favorite amongst our riders. He too hasn't had an accident or a complaint in many years. Dave has such perfect attendance that dispatch has grown to rely on him, especially during times of driver shortages. Been key to our ability to deliver services. We are grateful for his dependability. It is people like Heath and Dave that make Mountain Line services possible, dependable drivers who do their job professionally every day and without drama. They are both part of what we consider our core of rock solid foundational drivers. So I'm glad to celebrate these two staff members and I appreciate the time that their supervisor spent to send me a few comments to share with you today.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Do you wanna? There's no one else here.
Okay.
So, and there were no
Okay.
online comments, so.
So if there's no members of the public present, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. But before we get to that, for the record, I only had one complaint against him today. So that's quite remarkable. Both that haven't had complaints against him for a long time.
They're great drivers.
So on to approval of minutes. And we can, if we can take the approval of minutes for both A and B. For the August 27th meeting and the September 24th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes, August 27th and September 24th.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The the minutes are approved. On to discussion and action item, consideration and potential approval of the Mountain Line Chief Executive Officer and General Manager cost of living adjustment. Full amendment to the Mountain Line Chief Executive Officer and General Manager contract. So this was an item that we discussed in closed session last meeting, but we didn't take action on it. I think for the purposes of a quick refresher on what we had discussed, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. And then for just a brief amount of time and then come back.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to executive session.
Get everybody moved.
But
Now you're gonna sit here.
it's a stay here.
Okay.
It's just a refresher. Just good to see you.
That should be. Nobody got to do the money.
Your slide to share.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
What do you think?
Is there something, John, you have your executive session slide?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you need?
I have to wait for a room to close before I can reopen it.
Oh.
I apologize. I went out into the breakout room. Are we using this,
Well-
the executive session?
We set the room up, Ron, we're working on it right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you want me to wait here or?
No, just hang on one second. John is gonna get us reset up. 1 second.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Should we just say one? I don't know where to say one. Specifically here. Yes.
Back,
I think we're good.
okay. So that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the cost of living adjustment for our CEO by 3%.
I'll second.
And Joe, you all know that answer to this question. So no.
Thank you. And was that retro to August 21st when,
Oh, yes,
okay,
yes.
just for
When the
clarity.
contract, the date of the contract.
And I'll second.
Okay, thanks so much. This has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. On to item number 10, the oh, number 9, sorry. No, number 8. The board structure.
Great. So, good morning. Today I have for you a proposal that the board adopt or approve the revised org structure plan. Proposed to support the implementation of the 5-year plan. This approval provides appropriate resources and oversight to meet the growing demands of the agency. As stated in the staff report, normally the org structure would not necessarily come to the board for review and approval, but I really wanted to bring this to you so that you could walk through the process with us of how we came to this conclusion. And your support for the org structure is important to the 3 to 5 year financial plan. So therefore, I felt like it was important to bring for your review and approval. So when we approached this project, sorry, my notes are out of order. When we approached this project, the org structure review, we started with hiring a contractor to provide this service for us that brought that external perspective as well as the knowledge of what we do here at Mountain Line. The org structure review began with an organizational assessment of our existing work plans, strategic plans, and staffing. There was a recommended revision to our org structure based on skills and competency gaps that were identified in that assessment. One of those is the financial director, which we actually have already added back to our org structure. And then recommend a change management approach to reorganize business functions, bolster cross-functional collaboration and communication, and ensure long-term success. So the assessment included a review of current job descriptions for the positions listed on the screen, as well as interviews with many of our staff here. A lot of us also participated in a predictive index assessment that really helped identify some of those competency and skill gaps and looked at what drives our behaviors and decision-making. This is a brief glimpse, please don't try and read this, of where all of those organizational skills lie. And you can see across the top of the screen, the skills that are required within kind of the functional areas of the organization. And I'm sorry, across the top are the functional areas of the organization, and down the left-hand side are the skills. Anything in red is an area where there is identified a gap, meaning the staff that we have here doesn't meet the real needs within that function for those skills. Additionally, we looked at competencies within these different functional areas. And again, you can see the marble is meant to represent when we are 100% proficient. So a dark circle means we're 100% and so on. And then anything in red are areas and gaps that we need to address to really support growth across the organization or across the next 5 years. One organizational structure proposal, and I want to clarify, please don't start counting boxes. This is not meant to be people. This is meant to be functions that we need to address within the organization. The highest level, the red boxes, as well as the boxes that report to those red boxes, Blenders controls. Does this not work?
Yeah,
Oh,
there
there
you
it is.
go.
Oh, here. So this and the 5 positions that report to it, this and these 4 positions, these are people. Many of those people already exist, it's just a shuffling of who reports to who. Everything below those tiers are meant to represent functions. One of the things we're working on right now is when do those functions work well as a combined group? So when could a person act as both, I'm making this up, but when could that person be the account receivable representative as well as the grant billing representative? So maybe that's not 2 people, maybe that's 1 person. We're still working through where are there matches for 1 person to serve more than 1 function. This structure addresses the evaluated skills and competencies required for our success. The structure of functions that need to be addressed with future hires and position replacements. The structure builds the necessary framework and support for growing Mountain Line as directed by the 5-year plan and funded by Proposition 488. So we've talked a lot about Prop 488 is going to allow us to double our services. And the most obvious staffing change for that doubling of services is adding drivers. But what about all the support systems needed to support that? How many HR people are needed if you double your driver staffing? But more importantly, as you grow as an agency, do you have the right people in place to do grant management, to provide the technical expertise on safety, to provide the fleet and facilities oversight, the financial oversight, et cetera. And so this is really aimed at ensuring that long-term, the structure of our staffing supports our plans for implementing service. You were provided a copy of the change management framework. It probably was separate from the packet, but it should have been included in the same email. I know we also sent it last month as a separate email. The change management framework really starts with final approval today of the org structure. And then we will start doing executive and leadership team introduction and briefing. Some staff who have been involved in the interview process are aware of this process. Other staff are not as aware, and we want to ensure everyone has an opportunity to participate in this process. We will prioritize filling roles based on immediate need versus long-term need. It will include a recruitment and selection process and then new team member integration. I did put a couple slides in here. These are right out of the change framework, but this is the timeline. So again, this is over 1 to 3 years. The most urgent priorities that we chose to implement right away was the hiring of the finance director and the hiring of the planning director. I wanted to demonstrate or illustrate, I want to note that the planning director hire will be reporting immediately to the deputy general manager. That is a reflection of the org structure that's on this screen. While the finance director that has been onboarded is directly reporting to me for an interim period with a later decision to move that position under the deputy general manager of administration if this org structure is approved. If you have questions, please feel free to interrupt me. Quarter 3 of this fiscal year, which is April, we will start hiring more staff, and that is to support driver staff specifically. That's to support implementation of more services in July, August, which is our next annual improvement of services. And we will also be implementing at that same time succession planning and knowledge sharing. The goal is to ensure that if I don't show up tomorrow, someone else can step in and do that job, but replicate that across all the different positions of the organization. In year 2, we would look at establishing, we go backwards, this is the easiest place to reference. We would look at establishing the 2 deputy general manager positions. We already have one of those 2 positions. So we would bring on another one that would be oversight of operations, fleet, facilities, and IT. We would be looking to separate fleet and facilities. You've all met Jeremiah McVicker. We call it a maintenance superintendent now. He oversees both of those divisions. As we add more facilities, including bus stops to our system, as we add more buses, including electrification, we really need people who are dedicated and experts in those areas to support those growing functions.
So there's a clarifying question. Of course. So this seems to be going fast, like our growth, and then the need for new leadership positions. Is there more specific triggers, like, I'm assuming right now, some of our positions can expand capacity and responsibility. And I'm assuming that some of our current position titles, without going through an interview and hiring process, just as a perfect fit to then just be given that new classification, is that?
So we will look at a combination of, when can we call that a redefinition, when can we take a role and redefine it? And if the person the incumbent in that position is skilled and has the qualifications, they could then just be automatically moved into that role, versus when is it a new position, because we need both of them. And there's gonna be a little bit of both of those, but we will be cautious and careful. This timeline is something we are introducing as, I'll call it the fastest timeline, but we won't trigger these changes unless there's truly an ongoing skill and gap need to be addressed.
And when is the trigger for the deputy general managers?
So currently we have one, Jackie is a deputy general manager now. My sense is that one of the gaps that we have, there is not a good strategic partner on the operations side of our organization right now. It is a role that I continue to fill as the CEO. And the goal would be to ensure that the CEO plays the role the CEO should be playing, and that we have somebody leading the operational functions, including oversight of fleet and facilities, that brings that strategic approach. We have a really great operations director with Randy in that he can focus on the day-to-day details, but we are still missing that oversight of strategic planning when we talk about our operational terms.
So what side is Jackie on right now?
Jackie's on the administrative side,
Okay.
so Jackie oversees planning, marketing, and communications now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go back to the timeline. And then as we go into year 3, also under year 2, under quarter 4 is the establishment of a business analytics. This is probably one of the more important things that is showing up more and more as a gap in our organization. John, our IT manager, is working right now on what we call an IT architecture plan that ensures that as we buy future technology improvements, which in our industry continues to expand way beyond servers and computers, is that we're making decisions to ensure that we aren't buying systems that don't talk to each other, that aren't integratable, because then that requires a human interaction. Bringing in a business analytics person will come into our project management side of things and be part of that proactive approach to not just IT, but other functions, and ensure we're being thoughtful about what are all the pieces necessary to implement a project or a plan.
And, sorry. With, it's great that we're able to do this with the bond that was passed. Do we have a visual or a matrix that shows what percentage is going, that we intend to need to go to administrative type, and what to expanding routes and drivers?
We have not done that. When we did Prop 488, increase in staffing was anticipated in the funding that we asked for. The goal is, the commitment has been and continues to be, that our administrative to operating ratio remains unchanged. So as we add administrative positions, it is strictly driven by the fact that we've added operational functions.
That.
I don't have that in my head right now, I'm sorry, but we can bring that back, sure.
It comes to mind, coming from the nonprofit world in funding sources, and I know this is different, but the same philosophy, I think, applies, that administrative cost should only represent like 20% of the overall. So I know that the voters, at least my belief is, voted for more routes, more frequency and stuff, so I want to make sure that we are delivering that. More so than, but bringing in the administrative staff so we don't get over our heads.
Right. And that's what we're trying to balance, is How do we ensure that we continue to represent the financial and technical capacity to manage the organization while we're advancing services? It is never, my hope is that as we go through each budget year, we can demonstrate financially before we add and hire positions that we are maintaining that commitment of these funds are being preserved, reserved to ensure we meet those operational needs, not just today, but in the future. That was one of the most important parts of Prop 488. But at the same time, we cannot put ourselves in the position we are right now where we have gaps and then we have issues that are not being quality addressed.
Thank you.
So then when we move past, this is not at the end of that timeline, but this is one of the things that we will kick off with the adoption or approval of the org structure. Is that we will have a communication campaign that will include communication back to all of you. To your point, Director Matthews, a lot of financial questions that we need to answer throughout this process as we add positions. There will be communication needed with the executive team. A lot of staff that serve in executive roles right now, they may be changing, and what does that look like for them? We need to bring staff along. We don't want to lose anyone in this process, but we need to ensure that Mountain Line, as it exists today, is also ready for as it should exist 5 years from now. So we'll do meetings and outreach to effective staff as well as non-effective staff. To your point, like the voters needing to understand, our drivers need to understand. One of the most common comments that we hear from staff is, why don't you pay me more? You hired those positions, right? So it's about ensuring everyone understands the whys behind these and has the opportunity for asking questions and being involved, and then including external stakeholders, our partner agencies. So the next steps, if approved today, would really be development of materials and communication, and then measuring success throughout the implementation. And that comes back to you, the board. It will go to our partner agencies, it will go back to our staff, and then really development of our staff and our learning opportunities. Again, if I went back to, and I'll give to you, I promise. The goal is that these are not 200 people versus the 100 we have today. That this is just ensuring that as we put people in positions, we're addressing functions and skills and competencies that we see gaps in today.
When you talk about measuring success, what does that look like for you?
So we need to come up with that. But I think a lot about our strategic plan, which we're going to go into next month, that's going to give us some key performance indicators of how do we measure success on the strategic plan, some true evaluation criteria that you'll be using for the CEO in the future. And I think those two things, along with this, that's how we measure success, is how are we ensuring that, I'll choose a recent event, a federal audit is never filed late. How do we ensure that we are being proactive? How are we ensuring that we're looking ahead? How often am I coming to you and saying, sorry, we're not ready for that? To me, that's a measurement of whether we are succeeding or failing as an agency, and not just for me as the CEO. We have not defined what those things are. That will be an interactive process with you and TransPro, who is going to be this facilitator on the strategic plan. They were chosen under a separate procurement, but the connectivity across these projects, I think, is crucial.
Can I just add to that? Speaking of that, just comparing my role as a council member to this, usually the council, has, we're part of that process and we know the selection process. So can you just speak a little bit about how TransPro was selected, what their fee's going to be, and how many maybe applications we had for that?
Sure. So the selection process for TransPro for this or TransPro for strategic plan, because they were chosen under two separate procurements.
They're talking about the strategic plan. Yeah, right.
Well, I was talking about how the two are connected.
Oh.
But I'll stick with the strategic plan. Mountain Line has a full procurement policy. We require sealed bids at 100,000 or more. Generally, in the past, $100,000 procurement and award would come back to the board for consideration. The board, for the last 6-7 years, has given us a delegation of authority in June of each year that says if a procurement and a project is budgeted, in the transportation improvement plan and in the financial plan, then the CEO and general manager can conduct the procurement and award the procurement. It was only unbudgeted items that come back to the board. This particular contract for facilitation of the strategic plan, we had 7, I'm looking to Jackie, I think it was 7 qualified agencies.
Unqualified. There were several,
Unqualified.
yes,
7 that were determined by procurement to meet the qualifications for participation. We had a committee which included Rhonda, Jackie, myself, Heather Higgins, the procurement person, as well as Busy. Sorry, that was it.
so
I'm
how
getting my
much,
procurements confused. So then we went through a process of evaluating that based on the scope of work and the qualifications that they offered. We selected 2 finalists. The 2 finalists were able to give a best and final quote for award. Transpro was the lowest bid, the most qualified at 75,000.
and I'd like to revisit that, being the finance person that I am, always wanting checks and balances and stuff. Maybe when we're doing the budget for next year, I'd like a little bit more oversight and at least input when it's under 100,000. I look back again, comparing my other role, the city manager, we just barely increased his authority from 50 to 100 with a $550 million budget. So I just feel like as our fiscal, responsibility as board members, I'd like to at least be in those conversations before they're awarded.
Okay.
Without adding more, too much more work to staff, but at least prior to, to alert us, these are going on. This is what we're gonna do, we're expecting this cost to be X, and then making a decision from there. And
So currently we include all procurements in the delegation of authority report, which just goes out in your packets every single month under progress reports. Those are post procurement. So they are post procurement, they are post contract award. I think what I hear you saying is that you would like to be notified pre-procurement, which we are considering the June list that we provide as an attachment to that delegation, resolution on delegation to inform you of. But we can certainly highlight that in our June discussions and ensure that we're meeting those needs.
that'd be great.
I wanna just remind us all, one of the reasons Mountain Line has taken we, by the way, have had $100,000 to the CEO since inception in 2006. So that's not new, that's always existed. And part of the reason for that is y'all meet once a month. And oftentimes, if we're waiting a whole month for a procurement, we have bids expiring before we can get back to you. So happy to review the procurement policies, go through all of those limits. How do we have checks and balances set up? And then if the board wants a stronger role, or if a board member says, hey, pick me and I want to participate, then we can also set that up. What I want us to be cautious of as the CEO, what I'm asking you to be cautious of is we need to be nimble sometimes in these procurement decisions.
And I agree with that. I just want it on a discussion so we can figure it out, because this process wasn't a 30-day from idea to execution, right? So it was like, we need to do this and we need to start looking at organizational restructuring. And so then we could have had that conversation to say, this is what we're gonna be facing, is probably gonna cost about this much, and have that, so we don't have that, delaying of making a decision. So just to put it out there before we renew the next budget.
Can do that, thank you.
Thank you.
So that's everything that I had for this conversation today. So again, I am asking you to approve the change framework document that includes the org structure that is in the packet, and I'm continuing to be available if you have questions.
All right, any questions, any additional questions for Heather?
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Rhonda, for presenting this to us. I really appreciate taking a look at the organizational chart revision. I think every once in a while, you have to make sure that, you're in order to provide services, delivery, whatever it may be, that, you know, you really need to watch out for the organizational chart, the mission, vision statements, and the goals that you have. So I just want to say thank you so much. And then your RAs and KPIs, key result areas and performance indicators, you know, all of those play hand in hand. And I just want to say thank you for bringing this before the board, and I greatly appreciate your presentation, and certainly, you know, with the involvement of your staff, I think that that's the key too, is getting them involved and making sure that everybody buys in. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, any additional questions or comments?
Chair,
Yes.
just have another. What does appropriate resources mean? Is that human resources, financial resources?
Yes. So what this allows us to do is take this 5-year plan, take this org structure, feed it into our 5-year financial plan, so that as we're coming back to you in each year of the budget, we're able to demonstrate that we've already accounted for some of these positional changes. Again, I'll go back to, we still have a lot of functions represented and not people, and we need to do the work to get through that. But hopefully when we bring the 2027 budget with financial plan to the board this coming spring, that we are talking about how this informed those things. So again, the adoption allows us as staff to make certain assumptions in building out those budgets and financial plans. It still requires each year for us to go through the budget approval process before we hire positions.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend the board of directors I move that we approve the revised organizational structure plan proposed to support the implementation of the 5-year plan while providing appropriate resources and oversight to meet the growing demands of the agency.
I'll second.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thanks so much. On to item number 9, financial audit report, corrective action plan.
Sorry.
All good.
Right, so I want to first acknowledge that we have not filed the audit report. Megan Coons and I have spent a significant amount of time over the last 3 weeks trying to piece together a few documents and supports that are needed to finalize the audit. We are down to one open concern on federal grants. It's not a concern in that missing money's misappropriated, the documents aren't there. It's us fact checking the data that was delivered to the auditors. So we have one final thing that we actually believe we can submit tomorrow morning to them so that we can submit the final audit. The audit was actually, if you'll recall, several months ago, you did give authority to the CEO to go ahead and file that audit and bring it back as information only. So I wanted to be transparent about the audit, but I wanted to go over the corrective action plan based on what we know is in the draft audit. And we don't anticipate this pending data point that we are confirming for the auditors to change the draft of the audit in what are identified deficiencies. So that's really what I plan to focus on today, is what were the identified weaknesses or deficiencies as noted in the draft audit, and how we continue to work to correct for that. The material weakness is really that the audit must be submitted within the early of 30 days after the receipt of the auditor's report, or 9 months after the audit period, end of the audit period, which really meant our audit was due March 31st of 2025 and has not yet been submitted. As a reminder, we did get approval from the Federal Transit Administration and Federal OMB that we can submit by June 30th. We have failed to meet that deadline as well. So from the audit report, the corrective action are to develop formal written procedures and standardized templates to support real-time monitoring and reconciliation of accounting transactions and account balances. So this is what Megan and I are working on right now, is that fact checking of the accounting transactions and the account balances. The account balances are complete. It is an accounting transaction that we are working to verify. But what we've started talking about is what do we do every month to ensure that this is being done and that oversight is being applied. Who all participates in these functions, who all participates in the reporting and oversight of these functions, and how do we get that information to you on a regular basis to demonstrate appropriate oversight. Staff will attend formal training sessions sponsored by our accounting system. If y'all recall, there was some challenges with the implementation of the Sage accounting system. So Megan, Aaliyah will be participating in formal training from Sage to ensure that we understand that system completely and are using it appropriately. That will help ensure all transactions are properly reported in accordance with GAAP. And we will develop an audit timeline and checklist of year-end procedures to ensure timely single audit completion. And that was actually given to you several months ago. We worked with our auditing firm, Heinfeld Beach, to correct a few things and ensure that it actually is can be done timely. Additionally, we changed our IGA with the city of Flagstaff. I think we changed our master IGA, sorry, which includes all of our partner agencies. And our new deadline for delivering the audit is now December 15th of every year, which gives us some leeway on the federal deadline. So that we should never miss that deadline again. But it also ensures that we are doing timely completion of year-end closeout. So a couple of things in the timeline that I wanted to go over with you that Megan and I are working on right now. Obviously, not all of these were done timely because we were still working on the 2024 audit, but Megan and I are working to complete them now. And that includes confirmation of the audit start date. So that's really engaging our contractor to determine when are they coming, ensure that our staff know what their duties are in the process, and look for what was the prior year audit corrective action, which we're talking a little bit about today, and then sharing with Heinfeld Beach or our contractor organizational and key staff changes. That was due on June 1st. We have not yet done that, but we have it ready to go. We cannot kick off the 2025 audit until the 2024 is complete. So we will be doing a lot of the things that we're due up through the end of this month within the next 2-week period, or as soon as we can close out the 2024 audit. We have our prepared by client list, standardized list of items. I think Director Matthews, you brought this up very early on in the process that the items we submit are the same. How did we not know and couldn't prepare? You're right, they are mostly the same. So we actually have started developing those. We have those folders and we're ready to go with those documents. You can see there's other things that were due at the end of June. None of them were critical to financials, but just those standardized items that record what all an agency did within a fiscal year, like meeting minutes from the board and TAC. Legal risk, that is complete and ready, pending litigation, who are our attorneys. Grants and funding, so this is that schedule of expenditures. This is the item pending on the 2024. We're able to, once we have 2024 done, we're gonna roll right into 2025. We do have copies of the grant agreements ready to go. We have the drawdown schedule and expenditure detail and the documentation matching the funding requirements and the compliance requirements. Inventory of parts was completed by our fleet and facility teams. So again, those are ready to go. They just have not been submitted. And then confirmation of revenue is pending the work that we're doing to close the fiscal year. Accounts payable and accruals, recording expenses, cash and bank account reconciliations, and accounts receivable were all due at the end of August. Not all of those are complete. Those are the items that we're still working on completing. Megan is jumping right into those within our system and within our bank accounts. Capital assets and projects, this will be the last piece that we complete. We tend to go through all of our grant information and confirm it before we finalize our capital assets. And that will then inform depreciation schedules, federal and state filings. We're assembling those right now. The NTD reports are available because they're filed in fall of every year, due at the end of October, and Busy's leading that effort. And the last piece will be the trial balance and general ledger. That was due at the end of September. Again, our hope is to get it to them by the end of October. Look into the working. Oh, sorry. So with that delivery of that trial balance, that then allows us to schedule our contractor who currently is Minefield Beach. We do bid that out every 5 years, so it could change in the future. But that allows us to get them on the schedule to actually perform the audit during the month of November, allowing us to hopefully get that draft report in early December and submit it by the December 15th deadline. They have reviewed this timeline. Megan has reviewed this timeline. I have reviewed this timeline. I don't believe that this is aggressive or unachievable. I think it requires us to be organized every month in order to do this. And I think that was one of our bigger gaps with our prior leadership and finance, is the organization and the detailing that was needed for us to follow those trails. In addition to that, I wanted to share with you, we're very focused on how do we meet those year-end goals, and that's really going to be through every single month having a reoccurring oversight of reports and listing. This is something that I and Megan will be able to deliver to you on a quarterly basis to demonstrate our efforts to improve financial oversight. This list of reports captures really everything necessary to meet those year-end requirements, from reconciling the bank accounts to submitting the grant reimbursement. Oh, sorry, this is the monthly one. I apologize. So this is the monthly one. This is the every month one. I apologize. I can't see you with my glasses on. I can't see that. Glasses on. So these are the things that we will be working through every single month to ensure that as each quarter end arises, as each milestone arises, including those year-end, that we're ready. So those monthly are key to ensuring that we meet all the deliverable deadlines in here, including the annual report. You can see as the last item, November 25th. But again, our goal is that all of these processes that we're putting in place address the deficiencies of the last year, answer the concern that really is that material weakness of the 2024 audit, and ensure that we don't repeat that. And that was the last slide I had. So I'm happy to go back through anything or answer any questions about how we're moving forward from the 2024 audit.
Just a couple of questions. When we spoke about this the last time, my memory serves me correctly. We said that we had the checks and balances in place, we just weren't implementing them. But now I'm seeing that we have, which is good, that we have new checks and balances going. So were the original ones insufficient, or?
So this checklist of when things are due on an annual basis and this checklist of items that were due on a monthly basis, these have been in place for a very long time. It's oversight in ensuring that these were being done. So the gap was when I would approach Josh and say, Josh, was the bank reconciliation done? He would say yes. And we would all move on, and I was not verifying that documentation. So that's what we're trying to strengthen, is the checks and balances within the team to ensure that it isn't just verbal confirmation, but that we're laying eyes on things so these gaps don't reoccur.
And is Megan in the room? Who's Megan?
Yeah, Megan.
I'm assuming you, I don't know what your background is. So I'm just nervous because this has been a year-long process and we're still trying to fix it, right? Do you mind can I just ask?
Do you mind,
what is your
maybe
experience?
Pop and just talk a little bit about who you are and where you came from to start, and then maybe help me answer.
This is not an interview. I just want to, I just need a mental picture, because I know Heather has a background in financial management stuff, but
Well, Megan's is better than mine.
okay.
Mine is lived experience. Megan is truly education experience.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Megan Coons, Finance Director. So my background, I have a I have a bachelor's degree in accountancy. I'm also a certified public accountant. Most recently, I worked for Coconino County as the assistant finance director. In that role, I oversaw accounts payable, purchasing. I was involved in financial reporting for our audit. I did a lot of developing policies and procedures and internal controls in that organization. So I'm actually very excited to come in here and help strengthen our internal controls and our processes for getting our audit issued.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, this has been such a big weight on us all year, and I just want to make sure that, you know, I love your resume, so thank you for sharing it. And I'm assuming that even though, since the buck stops at the CEO, that Heather will be reviewing, even though we're gonna assume that the reports will come in flawless, that there's another set of eyes watching over it and making sure the timelines are being met.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, proper internal controls, you never want one function to just stay with one person. And so the procedures that we'll develop will include separation of duties and independent review.
Thank you. Words, music to my ears.
Any additional questions?
I just verify quarterly, you're bringing some of the reports to this board?
So I think that's something we all need to talk about, and I'd like to talk about it a little separate from the audit. Although it will include components of the financial reporting requirements in the audit, I'd actually like it to be a broader, I have a vision in my head of what it looks like, but I'm not ready to verbalize it. What I'd like to do is give you an example and say, this is what I would like to do. This is the frequency in which I'd like to deliver it. Here's how I think it answers to the oversight questions that have been raised. I think here's how it provides those checks and balances. Here's how it provides you the opportunity to engage in decision-making and provide direction. I'd like to recommend a frequency of that report. And once I have that out to you, and my goal is to have that out to you before the November strategic advance, I'd like to implement it as of January 1st, summing up the first 6 months in the first report, but then in my mind, it's a quarterly report. But I'd like to talk about what does that look like? Is that a presentation here? Is that an email to you? How do you want to receive that information and how is it most beneficial? But I think what I have heard repeatedly in the last couple of months is that although finance has revealed a gap in oversight on financials, I need to demonstrate to you that there are not those same gaps in oversight in other functions of our organization. And that's my goal to deliver to you. And quite honestly, I always say me, but this is an appropriate thing for a CEO, no matter who's standing in that seat. And that's what I'm trying to set as a standard for the organization.
Thank you. I look forward to looking at that and seeing what your thoughts are.
Josh, I just want to make a comment. I would like to encourage you also to go through some of the preliminary training with Sage so that you could at any time know how to click on what button to see what entries are being made, just as, you know, you should have the access and at least the general knowledge to be able to navigate through to just kind of spot check things.
Thank you. And we're working on that now. I already have done some tutorials in Sage because I didn't want to just dump everything on Megan for 2025. So I've been trying to partner with her to complete those. So yes, I now have access to all of our bank accounts. I have access to our financial systems and other things. So we have corrected a lot of those gaps that in the moment, I didn't feel like it was that big a deal, but now hindsight, we know that we need those eyes on those items.
Any additional thoughts? Questions? Right, I for one just appreciate the thought that's been given to this and really developing the strengthening the framework and providing some additional oversight on all of this. So thanks for that. There are no additional questions or comments. We'll entertain a motion.
I'm not sure how to articulate the motion to,
May,
oh, okay.
Chair,
Yes,
may suggest you can just make a motion to adopt the recommendation of staff as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so moved and seconded, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. On to item number 10, the electric bus performance report.
And Chair, I do apologize if I jumped in too quickly.
No, that's perfect. Appreciate the assist.
Right, thank you.
Great. Chair, members of the board, Busy Collins, Strategic Performance Planner. Next slide, please, Rhonda. I'll be talking to you about the electric bus performance report. You've seen a lot of this before, so it's in the same template. So here's just kind of that status update. We do still have 2 electric buses in service. Please keep note that the New Flyer bus has a smaller battery. The Gillig bus has a larger battery, that 340 versus 440 kilowatt hours. And so we do see that come out in the data. And then please note that we also have 28 hybrid diesel buses as our remaining fleet for fixed route. We are very excited to put the on-demand electric van into service this month and share that data to the board next spring. So there's just a little sneak peek, but we don't have anything to share yet because it's not in service. And then we do still have 2 chargers going. We do rely mainly on that Heliox, the ABB pantograph, because it's a much quicker charge. Next slide, please. And so here are our KPIs, saying that we've been checking in on over the last couple of years. Always happy to review other ones if you would like. Please let me know. Next slide, please. And so this first one is our efficiency per mile, very important stat. Lower is better for all numbers shown here. So we see that the blue lines are our electric buses. The darker blue dashed line is our Gillig, that's our larger battery bus. And then the lighter blue line is our New Flyer, the smaller battery bus. And so you can see that overall the smaller battery is more efficient. The light blue solid line is the average between the 2 electric buses. And then our orange line is average of hybrids. You can see quite the outlier in March of 24. There was one bus that was out of service, but it did get fueled up. So it really skewed the rest of the data. So that's what's going on there. I do also want to draw your eye to about August of 2024. Notice how all the lines kind of sync, they get really close together. We had operator training at that time. So we did operator training when we first got the buses at the very left of the graph, but then August 24, we did a reoccurring training. And you can see that the efficiency for both buses really improved. So they both went down and, you know, it kind of loosened a little bit over time. And then we did another reoccurring training. It doesn't quite show on this graph in June of 2025, just this most recent June. So in the spring, we should be seeing that same like data, you know, coming together between the buses. So really cool to see kind of our operator actions in the data and how that can help our buses work the best. Let's see, next slide, please, Rhonda. This is the same graph. Now we're just included temperature and we took out hybrid. So the temperature is the gray boxes in the background. And then we have our dark blue line, that Gillig larger battery bus, light blue line, New Flyer, smaller battery bus. And so temperature is important because electric buses operate at peak performance when they can use the most stored energy for propulsion, which in turn maximizes bus range, more miles the bus can do. And cold weather reduces range because energy from the batteries is required to maintain the cabin and battery temperatures. We do have electric heaters on our buses, and we do also have the ability to switch between electric or diesel on that little heater. And we have not utilized the diesel at all. We've been running only on electric, so everything off of that battery. You can see some kind of decrease in efficiencies when the temperatures drop. So definitely on the left side of the screen, when the gray boxes go down, temperatures are down to like 30 degrees, and our efficiency is very high numbers, which is low. That's not good efficiency. So Yeah, and again, that training in August of 24 really helped improve our efficiency the next winter, this last winter in 25. So both of those numbers are much lower than the previous winter. So just really, again, I love seeing that our behavior is reflected in the data. Okay, next slide, please, Rhonda. This is our gallons of diesel avoided, total by bus type. So accumulative between all of the buses. Orange is our hybrid, EV is blue. So 2 of the blue buses there and 28 of the orange. But over all of the buses, all 30 buses, a total of 108,880 gallons have been avoided since September 2023 through June of 2025. Really great. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And that reflects right into emissions. So, you know, we have a bunch of diesel avoided. That means we have saved a lot of emissions here. Totaling 905 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, and that is equal to removing 211 cars from the road for 1 year. So there was a question from the TAC about this stat. So we're saying 905 tons over about 20 months. And then the comparison is 211 cars for 1 year. So it really is just 1 year, 211 cars. So kind of a different timeline in comparison, but hopefully that makes sense to you. Just wanted to put it in terms that make sense. 905 tons of emissions is hard for me to imagine. Next slide, please, Rhonda. This is my last slide. On electric buses, the energy cost per mile. Again, we have an outlier in July 2024 that really draws the eye. Again, one of our electric buses, very few miles, but it got charged, so it just skews that average tremendously. But overall, you can see that our Gillig, the larger battery bus, is actually the lowest cost per mile in just using electricity costs in that figure there. And then our New Flyer, that smaller battery, is also efficient. It's doing well at 37 cents per mile. And our hybrid is the most expensive among our fleet types at 73 cents per mile. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about this, or happy to take feedback about other data that you want to see in the future.
I have a question.
Please.
Thanks, Busy. Great information. I didn't write down and catch, it was a couple of slides ago, the when you were talking about the equivalent of how many cars are replaced by our bus service. Can you share that number again?
Yes, thank you for that question. 211 cars for 1 year removed from the road.
So, and how do you calculate that based on number of riders, assuming each one would have been driving their own car, or how is that calculated?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It is based on methodology using EPA's greenhouse gas equivalency calculator. And so I have gallons of diesel avoided that I put in, and that gallons of diesel avoided is using Altoona bus standards. So assuming that a typical standard diesel bus, 35-foot Gillig or New Flyer, uses this much gallons per mile, miles per gallon, and then comparing that with what we're actually getting on our electric buses and subtracting what we expect from a typical diesel from what we're seeing with our hybrid diesel or from our electric buses, and getting that gallons, and then plugging that into the EPA greenhouse gas equivalency calculator. It's a lot of steps.
Thank you.
So Busy, the assumption isn't based on how many people are on the bus. The assumption is diesel bus versus electric bus. Just to
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? I've got one. Is there a way to figure, I know that energy cost per mile is important to this discussion, you know, when we're comparing hybrid versus electric and what have you. Is there a way to factor in total capital cost and energy cost on the different types of buses to see where those lines might intersect, hybrid versus electric?
Thank you for that question. Yes, so we have looked at this high level internally, and I'd be happy to share that. Overall, our internal methodology was to cost things at current level costing. So, you know, for our diesel infrastructure, we have a very large diesel tank. What did that cost in, you know, early 2000s versus what it costs today? We just took today's costs, et cetera. I don't have those figures in front of me. However, we do think that it is quite a wash. There is, you know, a lot of infrastructure required to support our diesel buses, tools, you know, fueling fluids. I've learned about a particular fuel fluid that's very costly and et cetera. So, you know, there's a lot of cost there. There's a lot of cost with the electric buses. You guys have seen this firsthand. But we do think that a lot of that is a wash. I'd be happy to share more information if that's helpful.
Yeah, understanding there's gonna be some savings in some regards on electric versus hybrid and vice versa. I'd just like to see, you know, like not just capital, but total costs, right? Maintenance, fueling, energy, capital, you maintenance, you name it. So I think that might be
And
you know, an
Chair,
interesting thing to see. Yes,
if I could just add to that, Busy, just to add to that, most of our reports, like that we get from sustainability, show when we break even, and we're actually, like, some of the efforts that we've done at the city level, after 10 years of the initial cost, that we actually start seeing the cost savings, not just the emission, you know, because what you presented today is the emission savings, which is our #1 goal. But I agree with Josh that I'd like to see, like, when though our additional costs to invest in the buses as well as the charging stations and everything else, when is our projected break even, and then the real true cost savings comes in? That would just be a good mathematical process.
Okay, got a question.
please.
Is Mountain Line participating, or is this already part of the Flagstaff carbon neutrality planning?
It's independent.
This is completely independent, so does the Mountain Line have its own carbon neutrality plan?
So Busy, I'm gonna take a run at it and you can correct me. We don't have a carbon neutrality plan. We have a sustainability plan. I don't know that electric vehicles were envisioned in that sustainability plan. So I think our goal, the zero emission bus transition plan, which was originally adopted years ago and updated recently, really reflects that the reason we're doing this is reflective of our partners who have a carbon neutrality plan. So it's not that we have our own, but it's where the city's bus service, where NAU's bus service. So how do our decisions reflect those goals of our partner agencies?
And I think the city monitors Mountain Line, but it's not a requirement, right? They're meeting our matrix in our carbon neutrality plan document, but it is mentioned. And so they do, that's part of the calculation, but it's not that in line. They're monitoring what we do, but it's not part of, okay, we are mandating that Mountain Line does X, Y, Z. That makes sense.
Thank you. All right, any additional questions for Busy on this item? All
Great
right,
job, Busy.
Thank you.
So seeing none, you're also taking up item number 11, the biannual performance report.
Yes. Thank you. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And please let me know if you have questions. Interrupt me at any time. I forget how many slides I have here, maybe 10. But yeah, interrupt me. Hopefully most of this looks familiar. I tried to break it out a little differently this year to show the ridership over year by year. So what you're seeing in these slides, the bottom, it should look new, and that is our monthly report that we have available online at any time. And so the bars are FY25. The blue line is Mountain Line X minus Route 10, and the orange block is Route 10. And then the two lines over that, so we have a darker line that is FY24 totals, And then the lighter line, that is FY 23 total. So hopefully that just helps you give you a sense of, annual amounts and monthly amounts, et cetera, as I go through these numbers. And then at the top, that should look very familiar, the financial and service performance benchmarks. The left 3 columns show actual data, and then the right 4 columns are goals. So we had goals for last year, current year, and then 3 and 7 years ahead. And so just looking at fixed route bus here first, we didn't quite meet our FY 25 ridership goal of 2 million, tear in my eye, but we did increase 11% overall, which is wonderful. Our cost per passenger an hour was also higher than our goal due to the $5 per hour operator wage increase that hit the books last year. That was out of budget, and additional overtime, but we do expect a lower cost per hour in FY 26 as this is all included in our budget now. And we do see that student ridership is really driving the increase in trips overall. So any of those chunks over the line from last year, they really correspond to when students are back in session. So we definitely saw that there was a 17% increase on Route 2 and a 10% increase on Route 3, and those are our highest FUSD serving routes. And then we also had a 16% increase on Route 10 serving NAU campus. So great to see, students riding the bus all over town. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Now we're looking at demand response. So there's paratransit and microtransit. They both provide origin to destination service, and they operate only when trips are requested, similar to a taxi. But these services are commingled using the same mountain line vehicle and driver. And trips are grouped together as a shared ride for efficiency. Paratransit is eligibility based and available for people with disabilities as required by the FTA and Americans with Disabilities Act. And then our microtransit service has been in place since 2022, and it's open to the public. It supports our more vulnerable community members to access needed services in the Huntington industrial area. So paratransit, that first bar up top, and then the left chart on the bottom, we saw a 22% increase in ridership over FY 24. The cost per trip is about $70 compared with microtransit, cost per trip of $7 per trip. So really astounding. And $7 per trip is really on par with our fixed route cost per hour. I didn't point that out before, but we can always go back. Trust me, it's very close to 7. And microtransit, I want to point out, in November, you can see a very large increase starting. So we implemented it mid-November, I forget, but starting in December and then forward, you can see the increase in the bars on the bottom right there. That's when microtransit fare changed to match fixed route fare, which allowed bus passes to be used on that service. And you can see a huge increase in ridership. We're looking at 279% increase over FY 24, which is great. Again, we're serving the community in this way. It's really great. We're seeing efficiency on our systems. So we're really excited about the commingled service there. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Now we're talking about taxi program. The city and county taxi program remain the prime choice for paratransit eligible customers due to its individualized service. If you notice the cost per trip here, we're looking at about $18 for the city and about $31 for the county. Both of those is much lower than the paratransit cost of $70 on the previous slide. It's a much lower cost to Mountain Line as well. You can see in that cost per trip. And then it's still a thriving program for both city and county citizens. The city counts are down, boardings are down by 9%, and the county is down by 4%. But again, a very valuable service to our community. Next slide, please. This is our last mode of service, the Vanpool program. Probably the shining star, I gotta say. It's currently supporting, well, it was in FY 25 supporting 14 Vanpool groups. We are now supporting 15 Vanpool groups in FY 26. But last year we added 3 groups: Coconino National Forest, Kaibab National Forest, and Army ROTC. And it's a great service for workers who live or work in nearby towns such as Williams, Happy Jack, or Winslow, and connect to Flagstaff. And some employers are supporting the costs of these van pools in addition to the county subsidy of $400 per van per month. Pretty cool. That's all I have for our modes of service. Next slide, please, Rhonda. I'm going to shift into our strategic work plan KPIs. Happy to take any questions if you have them, just let me know. So here we're looking at our scorecard. These are not all of the KPIs I'll be sharing, but this is more our snapshot that we really want the public to focus on. We're looking at a lot of data, as you'll see in later slides, but we kind of feel like this is where we really shine. We want to succeed here on these items. So I'll kind of dive into this in more detail in the next slides. You'll see each of these covered. But an overall comment I want to make is that it's valuable to be consistent for a measurable period on these KPIs, but we want to be nimble when something doesn't help us make decisions. And as part of that strategic work plan objectives project that Heather is leading with TransPro, there will likely be some changes with KPIs as those objectives are updated. So just a heads up, what you're looking at today may change. We really like our scorecard, but our scorecard KPIs, but again, we just want to make sure that it makes sense to us, that it helps us make decisions. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So our first strategic work plan goal, service excellence. We did change in May that fixed route bus is only focused on early departures. And while we didn't meet our goal of 95% on fixed route or paratransit, we did on microtransit, which was great. And we're still working towards that. We do have on-time performance included in quarterly operator performance reviews, and there is subsequent coaching when needed. So definitely something we're looking at, trying to improve. And then at the bottom, I wanted to highlight the overall customer satisfaction with service. That's from our Mountain Line Customer Satisfaction Survey, most recently done in FY23. So kind of a older stat. So I included on the bottom there the transit app rating. This comes in, we're getting this fresh daily. And so just for this FY25 period, we did see an increase in that transit app rating. So transit app is our real-time app that riders use to plan their trip, to see when the bus is coming, everything you need right there. So they graded on Beyonce to Total Nightmare. I just put it as numbers. So we did increase by 0.2 up to 4.7. So definitely seeing customer satisfaction in our real-time app improving. So maybe that's a better stat to use. So something we're monitoring. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Stewardship of resources, our second goal here. We did shift the Mountain Line emissions, that bottom line, from our total tons of GHG to how much we're reducing. So hopefully that's a lot more simple. So we're gonna, this year we reduced 71 tons of greenhouse gases from our vehicles, which is really great. And continue, to set higher goals for next year at 77. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Investing in Mountain Line workforce is our next goal. And trainings and job changes demonstrate our focus on developing employees and leaders. We did change the goal from 75% to 80% on the employee engagement score based on board feedback in May. So thank you for that. So we're shooting for 80%. I know Cody sent out the employee survey just recently, so hopefully we do get that. We'll be monitoring that closely. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Enhance safety culture is our next goal. Sam did a great report on this a couple months ago. I believe it's August. I pulled all the data from that. While we're not meeting our preventable accident goal of 40%, we are going in the right direction. We are decreasing preventable accidents. We define accident when a vehicle makes contact with anything. So most of the 80 total vehicle accidents that we had last year are very minor items. So it's running over a cone, it's a mirror tap. These are not 80 buses being crashed. So, and overall, we are focusing on positive proactive measures that'll move the needle in the right direction. So reoccurring training is a big focus for Mountain Line right now, and hopefully we'll continue to see the preventable accidents going down and reaching our goal. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Community engagement, this is our fifth goal. money saved by riders, it only includes 35% of Mountain Line riders who had a vehicle available to use on their trip instead of taking the bus, so it's not everything. It's just what, people who really need it. But we think that makes sense. The two other stats are static, but they're relevant. So we'll continue to monitor those. And next slide, please, Rhonda. This is our last goal, financial health. We were 1% above our goal of operations funded by local dollars. And we're still very financially resilient, which is wonderful. And then I do want to point out that bottom stat, the 90% last year. That was a tremendous leverage of federal funds due to a large non-cash match, the DCC land value. So 90% is an outlier. 79% this year's outcome result is much more typical. So just want to point that out. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Busy?
Busy, going back to the ridership with the taxis and the cost comparison with our paratransit. Obviously our paratransit buses have equipment for wheelchairs and stuff, but with the difference in the cost savings, is there a consideration to maybe explore adding equipment to some of our providers and using taxis versus the paratransit bus?
Do you want me to take it? I love the question. So Mountain Line for more than a year has really been focused on how do we do what we do differently. Can it be more cost effective? So whether that's fixed route or paratransit. We are right now reviewing proposals on how to expand how we provide, I'm going to call it on-demand service. So that will include our paratransit ADA services. That will also include our microtransit service. It could include late night service on the fixed route system. So we're trying to grow that network. The core problem we have in Flagstaff, and you may or may not be aware of this, is there are no wheelchair accessible taxi cabs in this community, none whatsoever. And so I can't shift trips to those. And the way our system is currently set up, I can't dispatch to those other programs. I don't have contractual relationships to say to John Smith, today, you're going to take a Lyft trip instead of a paratransit vehicle trip because you're ambulatory and it can provide you with the same level of service as our paratransit. Part of the goal of this procurement is that we develop these contractual relationships that allow us to dispatch to all these other more cost-effective solutions, especially for our ambulatory customers. We have to resolve drug testing issues, we have to resolve vehicle maintenance issues, we have to resolve safety concerns so that our riders feel like that is just an extension of what we do and not that we're shifting them to someone else's program. Our ultimate hope is that all of that allows us then to take our wheelchair accessible vehicles and operate like a taxi service within this community. So the riders don't have to book 7 days in advance or even 24 hours in advance. They could call us today and say, hey, I need to go to the grocery store, and we can act as the taxi, the wheelchair accessible taxi for them. So it's something we're looking at. We'll be bringing more information back. We issued a procurement because it's an offset. This would not be a new cost to us. It would be a cost that we're giving to someone else, but it would result in savings, which ultimately was what our taxi program was designed to do when it was implemented in 2008. But without the ability to dispatch to those, it's still dependent upon the customer choosing that taxi over the van or our paratransit vehicles. So we are very attentive we have to find more creative ways to provide transit across the board. Because not every customer is willing to get on a bus and not every customer needs to use a paratransit vehicle. So I hope I answered your question in a very long-winded way. Thank you. Yeah.
Any additional questions for Busy? All right, thanks so much, Busy.
Thank you.
All right, on to item number 12. FY25 annual report.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm requesting that we table this item. We do have it slated for the draft November business agenda. I don't have the finalized numbers. I don't want to bring you the wrong numbers. So I'd rather table this item and bring it back to you when we know it's accurate.
Um,
It's not late, it's due December 1st to the state, just to close the gap.
perfect. So table till next month?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's the goal. Thank you.
Do we need a motion to table the item?
I think that would be most appropriate.
Okay.
I move that we table the item until our November meeting.
Okay, and a second. All second. All those in favor of tabling item number 11 until our next general meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? My motion carries. Okay, on to the BPPA discussion.
Busy. I'm skipping it.
I was like, I think I'm good at this one. Thank you. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So city council members should be very familiar with this. You did approve this just last week, October 7th. So really excited about that. Basically, Mountain Line wants to piggyback on this excitement. So we want to be a great partner, join this intergovernmental agreement to issue a non-binding solicitation at no cost to Mountain Line and the other collaborators listed here to explore clean energy projects. So the first option, that VPPA or virtual power purchase agreement, these would be projects in other states. The second option would be under Arizona Public Service, our current energy provider. And so a couple different ways it might look, but really we just want to join the group to look at options and projects out there. So that's what we're signing today. Next slide, please, Rhonda. The timeline shows next steps once the IGA is signed. Everything in yellow is done at no cost to Mountain Line. So everything below that would come back to the board. Everything in yellow is done at the full cost burden of NAU for this exploratory stage. They've hired a vendor, a consultant, USource, to help with this, help guide the collaborators, help us move through this whole section in yellow every step along the way. They are professionals and provide guidance. If the solicitation does result in a project that the collaborators want to pursue, staff will return to the board of directors and request authorization to proceed on the following steps. And that includes choosing whether to move forward with collaborators on a selected project, and to equally split 60,000, so that comes down to 10,000 for Mountain Line, to share in the payment of legal fees and expenses associated with services that are conducted after selection of a project. And additionally, a new IGA for the project and cost sharing agreement would be drafted for board review. So again, that's all future phases. What we're looking at right now is no cost, no risk. Let's look at some projects out there with this cool group. Next slide, please. And this is just an overview of VPPAs. So on the right, number one, that's us, the collaborators. We would continue to get our energy from APS no matter what we do in this project. We would love APS to green their grid and propose a project that we can buy into, but it seems unlikely based on information that I've heard. Number two step would be for buyers to sign that separate agreement. So that's when we would come back to the board if we like a project and we want to buy into that project and invest in it. And then number three would be the outcome of that project when the project is completed, implemented, and selling energy into the electricity market, and possible outcomes for Mountain Line at that time and the other collaborators at that time. So steps 1, 2, and 3, everything happens at a future stage that we would come back to the board for approval on. Just want to give an overview of what VPPAs do. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
I'd like to make a comment. Just to add to that, we did just have this come to city council last week. I not that this impacts this exploratory process right now, but when we were first presented, City of Phoenix, which definitely is a game changer, they were over 80% of the pie chart of the total energy used, fell off the map and for whatever reasons, and there's some, different belief systems behind that, they're no longer in the mix. So we don't have as much leverage power as we thought we did at first. We voted to still move it forward. One thing I think is important to understand about this new concept is that, and this will be very important if we do move forward, is that if the rates change, it could actually cost us more money. So it'll be really important to put in guardrails, and opt out, portions of an agreement if we get to that point, to be able to jump out if it starts costing us more. As we all anticipate, APS at least is raising their rates to cover data centers and everything else. And so there is a risk that is not as highlighted not in your presentation, but in the NAU's presentation. But I just want to make sure we all understand there is a financial risk moving forward, not moving forward right now, because right now we're still exploring. But before we execute a contract, we really need to understand the financial risk that could happen.
Thanks for that. Any additional questions or comments? I've got a question. So what happens, say, we move forward with the this consortium, this collaboration. Say we move to phase 2 and half of this group wants to move forward and half does not. What happens then?
Group half forward identifies that new IGA. The other half that does not want to participate can bow out. It's non-binding, no cost, no risk.
So would the assumption be understanding that, a lot of the power in the collaborators is that that volume of and the negotiating power that's inherent in the group, would that potentially diminish the negotiating power of the remaining group? And could it potentially end up dissolving the entire operation altogether?
I can answer. Half of NAU, the answer is yes, is a short answer to that. There's very, very complicated other answers depending on the overall objective of why you're searching for this VPPA in the first place.
Even if it's potentially more costly?
Well, yes, because if your core mission is carbon reduction, what is that value as compared to the cost of carbon? Plus, you have to look at the projections the APS is giving us for costs of power cost, period.
Okay, appreciate that. Anything to add there, Busy?
Nope, thank you.
All right. There are no further questions or comments. Thanks so much. Appreciate you. Okay, on to progress reports and specifically summary of current events. Correct?
Yes. So we did move several of the staff reports that were agendized in September from discussion to progress reports. If at any time you want us to revisit those, please let us know. We're happy to put them back on the agenda. It was a time, we wanted to be sure we're respectful of time and the things we wanted to accomplish in October and November. Okay. Right, so I do have just a couple of current events to share with you. First, I'd like to celebrate Jackie. Jackie graduated from Leadership, APTA. APTA is the American Public Transportation Association of America. It is a highly competitive process to be chosen to participate in this opportunity. It is a development of what we call tomorrow's leaders in the transit industry. And so I was happy to support her application to the program and was able to attend her graduation in September. There you can see in the middle photo, the class of folks that graduated from this class along with Jackie. So my heartfelt congratulations to Jackie and appreciation for her commitment because she took this on, which is really the equivalent of a part-time job while she maintained her full-time employment here at Mountain. So thank you, Jackie, and congratulations. In addition to the Leadership APTA, Jackie also accepted an Ad Wheel Award, which is a marketing campaign award that was given to Mountain Line for a marketing and communications education initiative. And this was specifically to the education initiative we used for Prop 488. So Jackie was able to accept that award in person along with some of our colleagues in the transit industry. Couple quick September anniversaries to share with you. We shared milestones earlier. I don't think we went through the September anniversaries last month, so I'll go through them briefly. On the screen here, you can see we have 2 transit operators celebrating anniversaries. Joseph Tyree on the left with 8 years, and Peter Furness just to the right of him, celebrating 6 years. Donald Palmer started out with us as an operator. He is now an operations superintendent. That's an operations manager for those who use that terminology, celebrating his 3rd anniversary with us. And Stephen Yazzie on the right-hand side works in our facilities team. You often will see him at our bus stops around the community, celebrating 3 years. Additional September anniversaries include the 3 operators you can see on the left side of the screen here. Keith Carr at 2 years, Elvira Cisco at 3 years, and Stephen Olvera at 8 years. And then Keith Alexander, another facilities technician, often seen around the community at bus stops, celebrating his 2nd year. Keith just also graduated from our CDL program, and he's splitting his time as a bus operator and a facilities technician. And we appreciate him supporting that function. And the last anniversary I think I have to share with you is for the month of October, which is Matt Baker celebrating 7 years. Matt is one of our 3 mechanics responsible for our fleet maintenance program. He also has done a lot to support our electric transition and lead the effort on what do we need to do next. I wanted to share with you this announcement. I'll also send it via email. Mountain Line was happy to help sponsor this event to bring Strong Towns here to Flagstaff in November for 2 different events, creating a stronger Flagstaff. The event is mostly being led by Friends of Flagstaff's Future, but Mountain Line, Metro Plan, and the City of Flagstaff are sponsoring. It allows us to bring Edward Herbert, the Chief Technical Advisor for Strong Towns, into our community to talk a little bit about what this means and look like. There will be an event on Thursday, November 13th in the evening, which is really a conversation about community-focused processes, zoning codes, and development patterns, and then a longer event on Friday. So I will forward this announcement out to you by email if you didn't already receive it on the 2 events, and we're just very excited to participate in this. We were able to use our Transit in Code grant money to help sponsor this event on behalf of our community. Before I move on, I just have 3 announcements that I don't have photos to share. Mountain Line provided a letter of support for the Salvation Army's grant application to the City of Flagstaff's sustainability program. The Salvation Army regularly buys passes for us throughout the month. Through the discounted pass program that we have here at Mountain Line. The application, if it's funded, allows them to expand that program tremendously. And one of the ways they use that pass is actually to teach youth about sustainable transportation. And so we are very happy to sponsor or to write a letter of support for their application and to share that with you today. I talked a little bit about the procurement that we have in process on how we expand our services differently. We also have an operational assessment that is open right now. We had an operational assessment is generally done to come in and look at how you provide service. So we do a 5-year plan. 5-year plan assumes what you're doing is good and what is next. An operational assessment comes in and looks at what you're doing and says, well, actually, you should think about changing it to do this instead. And it can include things like close a fixed route and introduce microtransit in its place, and that has happened in some communities. We are not doing a full comprehensive operational assessment, but we have enough small items that we decided it was a good idea to do a procurement. We have pursued a grant to support the effort that will allow us to look at some of the hotspots that we're seeing in our community. So a couple of routes that are consistently late. We have riders that are coming here after all the other buses leave. How do we time those differently? But 2 opportunities, we talked last month about Mountain Express, and we've included that in this to really look at what is Mountain Express, what should it look like in the future? How do we fund it? How do we make sure it's a sustainable program? But we also were pretty excited because we were able to include an examination of the university services as it relates to Mountain Line. Is there an opportunity to integrate those better so that they look like seamless programs to our riders and provide more cost-effective or cost-efficient opportunities for operation of those programs? And really to that point, Mountain Line and NAU are deeply engaged on a contractual opportunity to look at how we integrate those services, including how does NAU look like public service. FTA has some really clear rules on what they call open door transit programs. Once we're able to confirm that, then we can use the data from NAU as part of our transit performance data, improve our competitiveness for the federal funds is the end goal, hope, but also to really look at, are there ways that we could operate services so that it doesn't to the rider look like 2 programs that we're competing for which vehicle people get on. So more news to come on that, but wanted to give you a heads up. We're pretty excited and appreciate the opportunity for the conversation. It will be a slow transition. And then last, I learned just before this meeting, we have officially broke ground on the Caspar maintenance facility. I thought that meant stuff we wouldn't see. Nope, you can actually see. So if you drive past the old building on Caspar, you can see where they are changing a detention basin, which is the first thing that we needed to fix on the property. Our grading permit was about a 30-day delay. I hope I have that timeline correct. So we're not positive that we're still going to take down that old Toyota dealership garage facility that's on the west end of the building in January, but that's still our hope. So happy to share that update with you. We'll have photos and other updates in the coming months, but I thought it was pretty fun to get those pictures first thing this morning. So those are all of my current events available for any questions. Otherwise,
Questions, yeah.
Heather, I'm happy to hear that we're doing partial analysis or however you described it on our services and stuff. I just am still not being a bus rider, and then going to Europe and that was just the mode of transportation. You just jump on because it was reliable, it was there, it was constant, it was frequent. We were squeezed in. Of course, Europe has they're farther ahead of us than we are in America, but I really hope we continue to strive towards that experience because I also go back to my tenants that I had upstairs, both NAU sustainability graduates, worked over at the Observatory Mesa and couldn't wait to buy a car because it was a 50-minute trip just to get over there, and it just was too time consuming. And so I hope that I know we've told the public that we're increasing or we're adding routes. I really hope we put a big emphasis on improving the frequency on their existing routes that we already have. Because having to be planning an hour in advance to get somewhere, is not really realistic. So I hope that we put that big emphasis on that, and I'm glad we're doing an assessment to see where we can improve.
and we are ready to implement more frequent service, but it would be inappropriate just to throw more buses at it if there's a problem on the route. And so we felt like it was really important to look at opportunities that exist that didn't used to exist to change how we route services. So one example I would share with you is we have no northbound 4th Street service. None. Because there was no turnaround point. Well, the roundabout is this really great turnaround point now, so should we reconsider that? So, Prop 488, just as a reminder for all of us, the primary focus of that funding was actually to increase frequency across our existing services. We have funding for expansion, so like Route 8, that was an important expansion. But next year, when we're coming to you with what's next, it is all about frequent service.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Additional questions, comments? Thanks so much. So, schedule for the next meeting date, you'll see on the screen. If there, no, just additional items?
So that November, we'll really focus on the strategic plan. We'll have a short business item because we need to do the workforce housing partner award. We also need to have you appoint a member of the TAC. The rest of it will really be a focus on the strategic plan and the real interactive process that Transpro's plan.
Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none. We are.